Welcome to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast, addressing all aspects of the digital enterprise, inspiring connection without boundaries and creation without limits. Thank you for tuning in. Here are your hosts, Thom Singer and Craig Brown.
Hey everybody, and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Thank you so much for coming along and picking this show. There are over 2 million podcasts out there, but here we are together again because this is the podcast that is designed to be a resource for those who work in and around PLM. The Digital Enterprise Society is a forum for the exchange of ideas surrounding the tools, processes, and practices used across the product lifecycle. To learn more, go visit digitalenterprisesociety.org. My name is Thom Singer, and I have the honor to co-host this show with Craig Brown. Craig is an industry veteran and former PLM leader at General Motors. Hey, Craig.
Hey, Tom. It's great to hear your voice. I made it back from my sojourn to the Southeast. It's been a few weeks since we talked, and I just wanted to let you know that there's still snow up here. So as much as I enjoyed not seeing snow for 6 weeks, I'm back in it. So there you have it. We
did have a couple of weeks where it was just me here alone, and I got to tell you, it's a lonely place to host this show without Craig Brown. And today, so today we are bringing back to the show Mark Pendergast. Now, Mark is the content trustee for the Digital Enterprise Society, and today we thought we would talk about some of the great changes that are going on in the Digital Enterprise Society around the content that they offer, what we've done for the last couple of years, what was then, and what is now, and what does the future have to hold. So, Mark, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here, Tom.
So Mark is often here when we do the digital battles, where he and Craig duke it out on some important topic. But today, we're just going to dive in and talk to Mark about his vision for the Digital Enterprise Society and where we're going with content. So for those of you who don't know Mark, Mark's background is he was an engineering IT architect and development leader for PLM. He spent about 30 years of his 40-plus year career doing just that. Now, of course, he's retired, but like so many people in this industry who retire, he's also now on contract, finishing up a deployment for a company that he worked with before. So he is really active with the Digital Enterprise Society, and he has 2 cats, one of which often makes an appearance when I am interviewing him here, and I can see him on the video. One of those cats likes to come sit on his lap while he talks, so we'll see if today the cat makes a visit. So, Mark, we're going to have some fun looking at Digital Enterprise Society then, now, and in the future.
That sounds great, Tom.
So, Mark, when Tom and I started out almost 3 years ago now, doing these podcasts, I don't think either one of us knew if it would last this long. And in fact, it's especially with the pandemic, it's been a nice thing to do. And I'm glad some people have gotten benefits from it. About a year ago, the DES matured and grew a bit more, and your position of leading the content came into existence. And I'd like to hear from you. What is it we're providing to our membership, and how have we started to improve the content for the Digital Enterprise Society? So fill us in. Let's understand where we are.
Okay, well, I think I can do that. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. This past year has been just really exciting on the content. Scott, who's my co-trustee, has been working with me on this. And certainly we've tried to help you guys with the podcast, find some new guests for you, things like that. And I think the podcasts have been just amazing for our members. Also, we've enhanced the podcast because your 100th anniversary, we felt we needed to do something, and we kind of invented the digital battles. And this was an opportunity not just to interview somebody, but to take a controversial topic and take 2 guys who are very well informed, Craig and Mark, and have them duke it out, because as you're doing digital transformation, there's never a clear answer, right? It's always the lesser of 2 evils. So what better way than the Socratic method, right? To have a dialogue and hammer away on a topic to show people all the different sides. So I think those have been really great. And in fact, one of the digital battles was actually the #2 clickbait for last year.
Cool.
So that was pretty good. That was our ALM PLM.
Oh my.
Battle.
Yeah, that probably should be. We probably should redo that about every 6 months because the landscape keeps changing, right?
Yeah. So I think those are hugely popular. The other one that we've started that's brand new and pretty much I'm the author of is the Digital Guideposts blog. Mm-hmm. And this is for people that don't have a half an hour and don't like to listen. They just want to read something kind of at their leisure. And it's been a huge success as well. But I'm the author and the editor, and I just take my 40 years of experience and start talking about topics I think people, need to know about. And we talk about data, we talk about deployments, we talk about problems with transformation, and there's a lot of great stuff in there. And guess what? One of our blogs was the top clickbait for 2021, drawings, friend or foe. And so, It got the #1 spot. And I think, actually, I put one out 2 weeks ago that I'm really proud of, how to fail at digital transformation. And so it just kind of struck me, I was just in a kind of a weird mood. And I said, if you really wanted to fail, here's how you do it. Because I've seen so many people do that.
Well, and engineering is all about dealing with failures and quickly adjusting to them, right? I mean, in fact, some of the most robust products have gone through several we call them learning cycles in the business, but in reality, they're problem solving to some failure, right? And that's actually, that's one of the topics I wanted to touch on. Part of why people are interested in this is just the knowledge exchange, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and you and I are examples of this, we move on past our full-time employment to not a full-time job, some form of retirement. It's not the old retirement where you go to the golf course and you never work again. It's the retirement where you get to choose what you work on. And You and I both in our own ways are doing this. And it's interesting to me that people still want our knowledge, right? It's not the company we left, but the people that are still practicing it. And so I think we are hitting a nerve when you see the popularity of a particular topic take hold. So, well, thanks for being the content leader, and thanks for helping guide us to new ways of doing things. I also caught wind. You and I were talking briefly before we put the recording on about somebody saw a blog and invited you to speak at a conference. And are you looking forward to that, being at a conference that might even be face to face? I hope it's face to face.
I'm looking forward to just getting out of the apartment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really care where I go, but I think it's very exciting. And again, I think it shows the reach of some of the content that we're putting out there. Mm-hmm. People are reading it. Influential people are reading it, and they're seeming to get value from it. So they're looking to us to say, hey, this guy's doing a great job on the blog. If I bring him to my event, hey, he's going to bring some of that great content there and improve my event. So I'm really excited about that. And again, I think, Craig, you and I are the kind of guys that we want to give back to the profession, right? Yeah, and we got these young kids coming up, and we say, boy, if only I had known back when I was wet behind the ears some of these lessons, I would have been so much more successful. And I think that's really what's driving content right now is how do we take those new guys coming up and kind of soften the school of hard knocks?
I think this would be a excellent, another category is if people wanted to come on and just ask us a question, right? How do you deal with whatever, right? This problem, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's organizational, sometimes it's technology, but I'm not sure you and I would agree. And that's the point. With our different experiences, we might have insights that would go different ways. And so let's see if we can find some willing people that have a tough question and they want to ask you and I a tough question. I would be in favor of helping them out.
Well, this is probably going to drag us off topic a little bit, but and I don't know if it's still top secret or not, but I believe the Digital Enterprise Society is planning a live event coming up this summer. And wouldn't it be great to have a Stump the Battle Champions room where you can just come in, give us a topic, and we'll hammer away at it?
Nice. We can do the digital battle without being digital. It can be the analog in-person battle, but we can have everybody in the room instead of me ask you all the questions. That would be a lot of fun.
So I have homework for anybody thinking about doing this, right? The those of you that are too young to remember public radio, you need to search on something called Stump the Chumps, right? And it's the other key phrase I'll give you is click and clack. So for all of you listening, go Google click and clack and Stump the Chumps and get ready for this live event. Now, Mark, I heard about it, but I don't know the dates. Are the dates established? Is it a known time?
I don't know. Like I said,
okay.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to mention that it's happening, but I think they're pretty well committed to it.
We love to scoop things here on the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. So if we let the cat out of the bag, meow.
I think face-to-face is coming back. I am personally involved in 3 different events between the end of March and the end of May. And I've been invited to others that I don't think I'm going to make it to. So I do think face-to-face is coming, and I'm ecstatic that the Digital Enterprise Society would do one. Hopefully it's somewhere I can go. So we'll find out when they announce.
Another secret, I think, is it's going to be in the Detroit area.
Well, and that's easy for me.
Well, and I will tell you, because I am starting to get brought into companies who are doing like full team meetings with all of their people again. And a lot of associations and other groups are starting to bring me in to MC and speak at conferences across industry lines. So face-to-face is back.
You know what? I wonder from an efficiency point of view, will we accomplish anything? Well, the one thing we will accomplish is reestablishing human connections, which, all this Zoom stuff, and we're recording this on Zoom right now, but, guys, I think, I'm looking forward to face-to-face. I got a brief moment last summer at an event in Traverse City, and it was wonderful, but I'm not sure we did anything other than find out who's still kicking, right? And who has an interest to keep doing what we're doing. So
I think we're going to see.
We need a recovery period. We really do.
I think we're going to see at live events probably for the rest of this year and into next year, people getting past this feeling of disconnectedness and getting back to a feeling of belonging. And I think that's why organizations like the Digital Enterprise Society are more important now than they've ever been.
So, Mark, we got the podcast, we've got the blog, we did the battles in the middle, and we're going to keep doing the battles, I hope. What other plans do you have moving into this year? What else is coming from the Digital Enterprise Society content team?
Okay, well, we're looking at a number of different options, but certainly we've done audio, we've done text. We're looking at trying to come up with a video offering. So right now it's kind of titled Knowledge Bites, and it would be like little YouTube videos, snippets, 5 to 10 minutes on one little topic. And we hope to build up a library of those that would be, knowledge that people should have in a video format. And I've kind of done a demo one that wasn't great, but at least it kind of got the format established. And then we're going to be looking to paste together a bunch of those and work out the kinks. Hopefully we'll start releasing those this summer sometime.
Okay.
I think we're going to try and refresh our Industry Insider newsletter. I think it's getting a little dated. It needs a little dusting off and making it a little more relevant. So we're working on that. We talked about the in-person event. We're looking at what can content provide there. And we talked about maybe a little mini battle or a open battle, Stump the Chump. Maybe some other things, just record a battle there and watch people, see how the sausage is made.
And they might even contribute to the sausage. That would be even more interesting, right? We'll have audience participation, right?
Yeah. And then I think the other theme that Scott and I have been really kicking around is how do we cross-connect all our little platforms? So how do we turn podcasts into blogs, or how do we turn blogs into webinars or knowledge bites? And how do we kind of use the content in a variety of formats so you don't have to be chained to one format to get it? And also, how do we reference back and forth? Wouldn't it be great in this podcast if we say, oh, yeah, and go see this blog number 57, it's got this going on. Or in the blog, I can reference back to, hey, there's a podcast on this. So I don't know exactly how that works, but I think that would be very powerful to kind of make the little internet of Digital Enterprise Society where everything's kind of cross-linked.
Well, that would be good. It takes a librarian, right? It takes the editorial staff that can figure that stuff out. And I, for one, in my retired state, do not want to do that job. I'll just be really clear. But I'm okay creating content that's disconnected, and maybe you can connect it, right? So, so interesting. Well, what do you see are the biggest challenges for our content at the Digital Enterprise Society? Either from the team's point of view or just from the environment we live in, right? What are the challenges?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we have, the biggest challenge last year was we just didn't have a lot of content. We had the podcast and nothing else. And now we have very rich content with even more on the way. So I think that's exciting. Now we're saying, well, who's actually looking at this content? So we're trying to dig back into the marketing back end of this thing and say, who's actually clicking on what? I think the top 20 list that we got was really kind of eye-opening, because there were things on the top 20 I would not have believed. I do feel real good because 11 of the top 22 was new content. It was blogs and battles. So blogs and battles owned half of the top 22. That made me feel good that the content was there. But then I was like, gee, some of these I would have never guessed that was the one they were clicking on. Hey, how do we know who's clicking on what? And how do we start targeting what's popular right now? So that's a huge challenge for us. I think the data's there, but we don't have any data, decision support based on that. So I think that's one thing we're really going to try and focus on is where are the clicks going and follow the clicks, basically. We're still going to provide a broad background, but we want to focus in on areas where people are concerned and want to know.
In the first year of the podcast, when I was working with the team we had then, I said, well, we should survey the people. We should ask what the people want. And I would love to see a running survey, maybe done quarterly or semi-annually, where we just say, what are the hot topics? What's on people's minds? One that came up here recently was, well, certain people can't get to our content because corporations, for lots of reasons, including the news cycle, are blocking social networks, right? Well, that's an interesting problem that probably is way beyond our power to fix, right? But it is going to be a challenge, right? How do we get the word to those folks, right? So,
well, for the podcast, they should be able to access it through their smartphone through a podcast app. But for the other people,
you just need to use a different device.
They just have to use their own device. But for some of the other pieces of content, that they would access from their desktop, if they're at work, those are things. If their company's blocked, that's always a problem.
Yeah. So I think following the clicks, understanding who's accessing our content, what they're interested in, is a big challenge. The second big challenge is right now we still are very core PLM, and that's great because core PLM is cool. But there's a lot of fringes, as you say. We're really the Digital Enterprise Society. Then you start saying, well, what does digital finance look like, or digital HR, and starting to reach into the manufacturing floor? So how do you balance the fact that most of our membership are hardcore PLM catheads with the fact that there's other people out there that could really benefit from some of the lessons we've learned as they're applying it to the apparel industry or the retail industry? So I think that's another one where how do you continue to serve the base while reaching out to these other people who are, kind of look like we did 50 years ago when we hired in, Craig. Yeah. It's like they're saying, gee, I wonder what a part is in a garment factory.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's probably a failed machine, so they're more worried about manufacturing flow than they are about cloth flow, right? Or maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, because it's the styling, man. You're an auto guy.
Yeah.
It's people, how do I keep track of what designs I've got, which ones are successful, which ones are having warranty problems, all these things that we have been doing forever.
For the folks that are not car nuts, you just look at the evolution of the iPhone. It's not a hard thing to go study. Lots of people talk about it online, but look how it went from being a utilitarian device to now it's a style statement, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the 15 years that's occurred in, is the story of 100 years of the car business, right? You're right. The styling surface, the colors, the touch and feel, the sharp edges or the smooth edges, that all matters a lot. And
it's crying out for PLM.
Well, and that's how you manage it all, right? And including what you do in the creative design studio, right? A lot of the virtual reviews these days in the car companies are all virtual, even for lighting and coloring and reflections. And it's kind of cool to go into one of the caves at a car company and see the 3D representation of a vehicle. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can really do that? Well, not only can you do that, you've been doing it for a few decades now. So I think these other industries, of course, will do it, especially if it makes them faster to market, which it does, right? If you have to spend all this time building a prototype, you're adding months to your development cycle that if you could do it virtually and you trusted it, then you should get on with it. So, well, that's interesting. So how can members of the Digital Enterprise Society help content? How can it help the content team? What else should we do?
Well, I think part of it is that we need to, as you said, kind of understand what the needs are. And we're looking at ways of getting that kind of feedback. I think really everybody's going through their own version of digital transformation. And I think really it's look at the content we've got, embrace it, learn from it, and then start sharing that with your friends. I think it's very important that, not only I and you be the evangelists, but everybody take our content, turn it around and sell it to the next guy and say, hey, I read this article. Isn't this great? Hey, Mark just had one on data retention. Hey, this is pretty cool. I hadn't thought about half these things. I hope we're doing them. Yeah. And I think we have a lot of career guidance too. I know Tom does some really cool stuff. We also kind of not within the content team, but we do have the Career Center, which provides content on available jobs, or if you're looking for someone, we've got our fingers into the pie of a lot of people that have tremendous capability. So
yeah, and there's probably even some retirees that like a gig now and then.
Yeah. So I think really we've got a lot to offer. Digital transformation is hard and it's painful when it goes wrong, and it goes wrong more often than it goes right. I mean, you look at the studies, 70% of these things go south, and some of them go south big time and take their companies with them.
Well, a lot of it is scope, right? Or scope management. And I in the past couple of weeks, I've dealt with a completely different world, but they kept saying digital transformation, the buzzword, right? Mm-hmm. And so I decided to interview them individually. Well, what do you mean? And I had the gamut from, filling out this form automatic to, no kidding, I want to change the way I make my decisions about product evolution. And so part of the reason digital initiatives fail is everybody's saying a buzzword and has a different idea what they mean. And they, maybe a little bit of work should be put on, is it really enough to digitally transform, i.e. turn paper into computers? Or is it more important to do digitalization, which is a topic that's been on my mind about, think about the recorded music industry. We used to have stuff pressed in plastic that moved to tape, that moved to a digital format, that moved to a handheld device, and we don't even have separate devices anymore, right? And so that's digitalization, where the use of computers completely changed the business models. Well, when we say digital transformation, do we mean that? And to be fair, I don't mean any of them. I just want you to be clear with your team that's working together what you mean when you say digital transformation. At my former employer before, as I retired, we really got stuck on, well, our forms are already digital. Why do we need to digitally transform them, right? And the point was, get the databases combined, right, instead of being in separate silos.
Well, or in some cases, it's, I have a digital form. It's in Word, and I print it out and fill it out. I'm digital.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as long as you scan it back in, then you can't read the writing, but never mind.
So I think the other half of that, the reason people fail, and I'll come back to my favorite theme, PLM is people. It's not technology. And too many people get hung up on the technology, and they forget that human beings have to make that happen, both in the deployment and in the ongoing operation. And if you can't reach out to those people and make it something that they can accept and they can align with, you're going to fail no matter how good your strategy is. And that has been my theme through a lot of the articles that I write, a lot of the people I talk to, is if your people are right, they're going to make a bad system look good. And if they don't get it, they're going to make a good system look terrible.
That's well said. That's a good last word.
It is
Thanks,
a good,
Mark. This has been a good insights.
It is a
Tom?
good last word. It sort of reminds us that the Digital Enterprise Society is all about you who are listening. It is all about the people. So if there's some piece of content, if there's some learning, if there's some door you need opened when it comes to knowledge, please reach out to us and let us know. And we'll either have it on the blog, we'll have it on the podcast, they'll digital battle it on those podcasts, or maybe it'll show up in the in-person conference when that happens. So please make sure that you're tuning in every week to this podcast, because our goal is to bring you more thoughts, ideas, and actionable information in and around product lifecycle management. Hey, remember, the Digital Enterprise Society, it is the place for the exchange of ideas around digital manufacturing tools. Go check us out at digitalenterprisesociety.org.
You've been listening to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Learn more about what you've heard here today at digitalenterprisesociety.org. Join us again next week for more connection without boundaries and creation without limits.